and the former JCPenney chairman and CEO, Alan Questrom. Alan, very good to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to be with you, Neil.
What do you make of what's going on in retail land here?
Well, I actually think it's an exciting period. I think certainly what Amazon is doing is exciting. I think it's exciting even if you're in a bricks and mortar, because I think you have to always be looking to figure out how do you solve a problem, how do you attract your customers if they seem to be moving in a different direction. I think you have to obviously be an omni-channel, but merchandising is a creative business. And what they do at Amazon is really not merchandising. They're a distribution channel. And I think when you walk into a store and you see a great run department store, like I was in Selfridges last 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's absolutely spectacular. They're picking up 16 to 17%. So that's a well-executed department store. When you get so many like we have today in the United States, it's very difficult for them to make each store exciting, and that's why you see the contraction. But I think it's an exciting period because we have a lot of young, very interested people in the department store and retail business, and they're going to come up and create new ideas. You know, capitalism is always about if you can't stay at pace with the crowd, you're going to get left out. And so I think your challenge is constantly try to create and solve the problems that your customers are demanding. And I think department stores, quite frankly, in America haven't been doing that as well as they should have.
Do you think a lot of this is folks, whether online or in traditional stores, and I know there's a chasm of difference there, but they're pre-spending tax cut money coming their way?
No, I really don't think so. I think what we have is we have a very, very different economy than it was 6 months ago. I think when you're picking up 3% in GDP, I think people feel very good about the economy. I think since the first quarter, I think people feel like regulations have been reduced, businesses seem to be thriving, businesses are doing well. So I think people are feeling generally very good. They've got over the negatives of the last election, and they're now dealing with their own eyes. And I think there's a lot of good things happening out there, and I think that it's more positive than sometimes you read in the newspaper.
Right. What do you think of the job the president is doing? You got a little controversy yesterday with the Pocahontas remarks at this Indian event. He added to that with a nasty tweet concerning Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. That the end result was they canceled their meeting at the White House with the president today. What do you think of all that?
Well, overall, I think he's doing well because the economy is doing well. As far as his tweets, you know, I wish he would stop that. I think insulting people is not something that I think gets you a lot and causes more time. But saying that, I think the news stations have really benefited because there's always something to talk about with Mr. Trump because he cannot stop himself from commenting. And I think it doesn't really help his cause. I think he should be focusing on the key things, which was health care, which we failed to do. And I think this new tax plan needs to be focused on and work with the individual senators and representatives so that we get to the right plan. I think we've got 2 plans on the table. Both of them, I think, have good points to them. And I think the 2 groups together will come up with a plan that's going to be passable. And I think he needs to focus.
House and Senate tax measures.
Yeah, the House and Senate. I think they both got some very good things in them. They're not perfect. They're never going to have a perfect plan. You'll never solve
what happens to these markets up and sprinting to records today if for some reason they stumble? In other words, a couple of senators more than thought nix this thing and the whole thing goes up in flames. Then what?
Well, I think if they don't pass this bill, which I do think they will, I think there will be a negative in the market.
You do?
Now, I do think there'll be a negative in the market, and I think that the Republicans have got to realize they failed on health care. If they don't solve this problem on the tax plan, I think they're not going to be around anyway. So I think they have to understand 1 or 2 of you may survive, but a lot of you are going to go down, and then you won't have a control of either house. Now, saying all that, I'm very disappointed, quite frankly, in the Republicans since they control all 3, and that they haven't produced something like so. Shame on them. You know, but both parties, they talk one thing, and then when they get in, they do something else.
No,
so we
you're
have
right
to say,
about that, and we certainly
haven't been too successful.
Chronicle that. Finally, I just want to get your thoughts on this incredible the pickup in economic activity in this latest quarter could be well north of 3% when the final numbers are in. Do you think that's because of President Trump, that this rally has accelerated because of him?
I think it's accelerated because of him in the sense that he gave a flavor to the business community that we're not going to restrict them. And I think that when businesses feel like they're not going to spend all their time on regulations and things that restrict them from doing business, they will come up with better ideas. So I believe, I'm a big believer in capitalism, as you know. It's the only thing we've ever seen that really brings people better lifestyles. So I believe that we're seeing that now because less regulation. I think the tax plan is something that will come about, and I think it will be helpful. But again, the key thing is creating an atmosphere for businesses that they feel that they can operate and do business and compete. That makes us also very, very competitive in the world. We're not going to win in the world if we stop doing trade. We got to trade with everyone, but we have to have a competitive platform to operate on. And I think they feel, the business community today feels, it's a much more feeling of positive toward them than it was in the past.
I think you're right about that. Alan, thank you very, very much. Very good seeing you again.